All praises, all praises, all praises to the heavenly, holy, almighty creator of infinity, eternity, the universe, and all there is. This is Revelations.Unveiled. Detroit. Hello, family. We are back together again, where we are resuming the wonderful examination of the Greek Empire, of the Apocrypha, the books removed from the holy history called the Bible. And family, a lot of confusion that goes on with the understanding of the word is because this set of history was removed from the holy history purposefully to cause confusion, to invite us into a snare of doubt, a snare of fable, where we co-sign our holy scripture to metaphor and allegory as opposed to understanding it along the historical lines of the interaction of nations between the holy chosen nation of Israel. And so we are back in the book of First Maccabees, chapter 9. And in the preceding series, the brother Maccabees sent a cadre of representatives to Rome because they heard that the Romans were of good business and were of good partnership and allies. And so a covenant was hammered out with the understanding between the nation of Israel in Jerusalem and the Romans. However, the Maccabean brothers and the holy people of the land are still besieged by the wicked Greek rulers. And so we shall continue our episode of elaboration and expansion of our intellect and spirit. And so we began with the continuing episodes of the safeguards, the vanguards, the stewards of the nations. In the book of First Maccabees, chapter 9, verse 1. Furthermore, when Demetrius heard that Nicanor and his hosts were slain in battle, he sent Maccabees and Alchemists into the land of Judea the second time, and with them the chief strength of his host, who went forth by the way that led to Galgala, and pitched their tents before Masalath, which is in Arbela. And after they had won it, they slew much people. Also, the first month of the 152nd year they encamped before Jerusalem, from whence they removed and went to Berea with 20,000 footmen and 2,000 horsemen. All right, family. So these old wicked Grecians have formulated a great army in camp of 20,000 footmen and 2,000 horsemen. Verse 5. Now Judas had pitched his tents at Elisa, and 3,000 chosen men, who, seeing the multitude of the other army that was so great, were sore afraid. Whereupon many conveyed themselves out of the host, inasmuch as abode of them no more but 800 men. Whew. So family, when the brothers saw the army of the Grecians, and it was 3,000 brothers, some of them fled away, leaving only 800. When Judas therefore saw that his host split away, and that the battle pressed upon him, he was sore troubled in mind, and much distressed, for that he had no time to gather them together. Nevertheless, unto them that remained, he said, Let us arise and go up against our enemies. Peradventure, we may be able to fight with them. But they dehorted him, saying, We shall never be able. Let us now rather save our lives, and hereafter we will return with our brethren and fight against them, for we are but few. Then Judas said, God forbid I should do this thing and flee away from them. If our time be come, let us die manfully for our brethren, and let us not stain our honor. With that, the host of Maccabees removed out of their tents and stood over against them, their horsemen being divided into two troops, and their slingers and archers going before the host, that they marched in the forward were all mighty men. As for Maccabees, he was in the right wing, so the host drew near on two pats and two parts, and sounded their trumpets. They also of Judas' side, even they sounded their trumpets also, so that the earth shook at the noise of the armies, and the battle continued from morning until night. Verse 14. Now when Judas perceived that Maccabees and the strength of his army were on the right side, he took with him all the hardy men, who discomfited the right wing, and pursued them unto the Mount Azotus. But when they of the left wing saw that they of the right wing were discomfited, they followed upon Judas and those that were with him hard at the heels from behind. Whereupon there was a sore battle, inasmuch as many were slain on both parts. Judas also was killed, and the remnant fled. Verse 19. Then Jonathan and Simon took Judas their brother, and buried him in the sepulchre of his fathers in Modin. Moreover, they bewailed him, and all Israel made great lamentation for him, and mourned many days, saying, How is the valiant man fallen that delivered Israel? And as for the other things concerning Judas and his wars, and the noble acts which he did, and his greatness, they are not written, for they were very many. Now after the death of Judas, the wicked began to put forth their heads in all the coast of Israel, and there arose up all such as wrought iniquity. So those sinful, nasty Negroes of the nation have started to conspire to bring us into lawlessness, family. In those days also there were a great famine, by reason whereof the country revolted and went with them. Then Maccabees chose the wicked men and made them lords of the country. And they made inquiry and searched for Judas's friends, and brought them unto Maccabees, who took vengeance upon them and used them despitefully. So was there a great affliction in Israel, the like whereof was not since the time a prophet was not seen among them. For this cause all Judas's friends came together and said unto Jonathan, Since your brother Judas died, we have no man like him to go forth against our enemies and Maccabees, and against them of our nation that are adversaries to us. Now therefore we have chosen you this day to be our prince and captain in his stead, that you may fight our battles. Verse 31. Upon this Jonathan took the governance upon him at that time, and rose up instead of his brother Judas. But when Maccabees got knowledge thereof, he sought for to slay him. Then Jonathan and Simon his brother, and all that were with him, perceiving that, fled into the wilderness of Theco, and pitched their tents by the waters of the pool of Asphar. which when Bacchides understood, he came near to Jordan with all his host upon the Sabbath day. Now Jonathan had sent his brother John, a captain of the people, to pray his friends the Nabathites, that they might leave with them their carriage, which was much. But the children of Jambri came out of Madaba, and took John and all that he had, and went their way with it. After this came word to Jonathan and Simon his brother, that the children of Jambri made a great marriage, and were bringing the bride of Nadabatha with a great train, as being the daughter of one of the great princes of Canaan. Therefore they remembered John their brother, and went up and hid themselves under the covert of the mountain. When they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, there was much ado, a great carriage, and the bridegroom came forth, and his friends and brethren, to meet with them, drums and instruments of music and many weapons. Then Jonathan and they that were with him rose up against them from the place where they lay in ambush, and made a slaughter of them in such sort, as many fell down dead, and the remnant fled into the mountain, and they took all their spoils. Thus was the marriage turned into mourning, and the noise of their melody into lamentation. So when they had avenged fully the blood of their brother, they turned again to the marsh of Jordan. Now when Bacchides heard thereof, he came on the Sabbath day unto the banks of Jordan with a great power. Then Jonathan said to his company, Let us go up now and fight for our lives, for it stands not with us today as in time past. For behold, the battle is before us and behind us, and the water of the Jordan on this side and that side, the marsh likewise, and the wood. Neither is there place for us to turn aside. Wherefore, cry you now unto heaven, that you may be delivered from the hand of your enemies. With that, they joined battle. And Jonathan stretched forth his hand to smite Bacchides, but he turned back from him. Then Jonathan and they that were with him leapt into the Jordan, and swam over to the other bank. Howbeit, the other passed not over Jordan unto them. So there were slain of Bacchides' side that day about 1,000 men. Afterward returned Bacchides to Jerusalem, and repaired the strong cities in Judea, the fort in Jericho, and Emas, and Beth-horon, and Bethel, and Thamnathah, and Pharathonia, and Taphthon. These did he strengthen with high walls, with gates, and with bars. And in them he set a garrison, that they might work malice upon Israel. He fortified also the city of Bethsura, and Gezerah, and the tower, and put forces in them, and provisions, and victuals. Besides, he took the chief men's sons of the country for hostages, and put them in the tower at Jerusalem to be kept. Moreover, in the 153rd year, in the 2nd month, Alchemus commanded that the wall of the inner court of the sanctuary shall be pulled down. He pulled down also the works of the prophets. And he began to pull down even at the time of Alchemus plagued, and his enterprises hindered, for his mouth was stopped, and he was taken with a palsy, so that he could not no more speak anything, nor give order concerning his house. All right, family, so when Alchemist was in the land pulling down walls and sanctuaries and the prophets, he was stricken with a palsy. So Alchemist died at that time with great torment. Now, when Bacchides saw that Alchemist was dead, he returned to the king, whereupon the land of Judea was in rest 2 years. Then all the ungodly men held a council, saying, Behold, Jonathan and his company are at ease, and dwell without care. Now therefore we will bring Maccabees here, who shall take them all in one night. So when they consulted, so they went and consulted with him. Then they removed, and he came with a great host, and sent letters privily to his adherents in Judea, and they should take Jonathan, those that were with him, howbeit they could not, because their counsel was known unto them. All right, so those wicked Negroes who are conspiring with the Grecians went out now to look for Jonathan and the small army. But Brother Jonathan and the crew heard of the plan. Wherefore they took of the men of the country that were authors of that mischief, about 50 persons, and slew them. Afterward Jonathan and Simon and they that were with them got them away to Bethbasi, which is in the wilderness, and they repaired the decays thereof and made it strong. Which things when Maccabees knew, he gathered together all his host, and sent word unto them that were in Judea. Then went he and laid siege upon Bethbasi, and they fought against it a long season, and made engines of war. But Jonathan left his brother Simon in the city, and went forth himself into the country, and with a certain number went he forth, and he smote Odaenaches and his brothers, and the children of Phasaron in their tent. And when he began to smite them, he came up with his forces. Simon and his company went out of the city, and burned up the engines of war. And they fought against Maccabees, and was discomfited by them, and they afflicted him sore, for his counsel and travail was in vain. Verse 69, wherefore he was very wroth at the wicked man that gave him counsel to come into the country, inasmuch as he slew many of them, and purposed to return to his own country. All right, family. So Jonathan and Simon went out and put some work in on Maccabees, and that work was so good that it messed up his forces, and he got mad at those wicked Negroes who conspired with him against Israel, and he killed them. And then he went back to his own nation. So Maccabees is on the run. Whereof, when Jonathan had knowledge, he sent ambassadors unto him, to the end he should make peace with them, and deliver them the prisoners. Which thing he accepted, and did according to his demands, and swear unto him that he would never do him harm all the days of his life. So the remaining conspirators, they came into an agreement with Jonathan and released the hostages of the Greeks. When therefore he had restored unto him the prisoners that he had taken aforetime out of the land of Judea, he returned and went his way into his own land, neither came he any more into their borders. Oh, that was Maccabees who did the releasing. All praises. Verse 73. Thus the sword ceased from Israel, but Jonathan dwelt at Maccabees, and began to govern the people, and he destroyed the ungodly men out of Israel. All praises, family. Quite an adventure. One of the remaining adventures of the brother prophets of the Maccabees. A small army of men with the faith of the nation under the one true God, the God of Israel. And they have caused so much havoc to the great host of the Grecian armies that the Greeks are tired. They made peace, and have fled into their own nation, but at a great cost of the valiant warrior Judas Maccabees. He was honored. He was buried with the men of honor in the Holy Sepulchre. And so, family, we will continue with the hidden history of the Greek captivity of the book of First Maccabees. We shall understand this history, and as we plug it back into the whole book of the Holy Bible, this will give us the clarity of the work of the apostles in the New Testament. All praises. And until we are together again, this is the first book of Maccabees, chapter 9, a final battle with the Grecians. Until we are together again, I love you. I love you. I love you. This is Revelations.Unveiled. Detroit.